Right. We are back again. Uh, this is the post-game spread. I'm your host, as always, Blake Helms. Sitting across from me, Mr. Bo Hart. This is back for part 6 here. Um, our last episode, Bo came back after, a year ago he came on our podcast. It was incredible. He went through all of his record-setting story, incredible journey. And this last episode, we got Tony La Russa to participate and kind of gave us some more context on how he kind of saw your whole thing, your magic moment, as I coined it, I guess. But I thought it was cool to hear some of his thoughts, and I hope you got some closure. I've definitely got some text messages from some friends being like, "I really thought that was cool, that Tony was a part of it." It almost felt like my other co-hosts even said it. Joey Albsmeyer kind of said it sounded almost like a dad kind of finally giving validation to that son that he always wanted. And I'm sorry if that's a terrible analogy, but
No,
um, I
it's fine.
I could kind of get that. But
Yeah.
today we're going to get more into hitting stuff because Bo has his own 31 hitting. He's got a cage in his backyard, and he's been giving lessons here for a while, and allows him to stay in the game. And we're really kind of moving. Parts of this podcast is moving towards some really deep hitting talk. So Bo's
Yeah.
going to be a part of that here. And man, before we get going, um, I had a thing in the middle of the night, so I'm big on if a vision or something hits me in the middle of the night, I wake up and I write it on a notepad. And I've got the name of this podcast already. You want to know what it is?
Yes.
Bo knows hitting.
Ah, I like it. I like it.
Yep. So obviously that is a play off of the old Bo Jackson Nike ads that they used to run. It was Bo knows this, Bo knows soccer, Bo knows basketball. So anyway, we're stealing from Bo Jackson here. I thought it would be cool. So Bo knows hitting is what I'm going to name this. And we kind of ended the last podcast with me critiquing some of your swing. We could get back into that if you want to talk more about your swing, or we could move on. What do you
I
want to do?
mean, my swing is I don't know. It's not out of the ordinary. It's not, I don't want to say unique. Um, I think I just had good technique,
Yeah.
proper fundamental technique, and we can get into it. But I mean, it was again, hitting is really hard,
Yes.
and as you know, and it's just you just got to try to increase the amount of times you square the ball up, and then you run around until someone tags you out, I guess.
To really simplify it, yeah.
I mean, I've been around 10-year-old kids here for a while, so it's like uh, if we can increase hitting the ball more often,
Yeah.
then we're having more fun. And I think I really try to get that point across to these parents that are around and these kids. It's not all about, home runs or anything. Like there's so many really tough, challenging habits to break. And I slowly but surely replace those bad habits with good ones and
Uh-huh.
then just go play. That's what
Yeah.
I'm telling everybody.
Well said. Okay, then. Well, before we get into some questions, then one we didn't get to last time was, or we didn't talk about much, was you're still involved with the Cardinals in ways. Like you still get invited to go to fantasy camps and things like that. And before we get going, I'd love to hear you talk on that a little bit because that's still pretty cool. Like you were posting pictures of at this fantasy camp and you got your glove out and you got a new bat and it's like I'd love to hear what that's like for you.
It's really great. The organization, the alumni organization, who's run by two really or one person predominantly, and then his right hand man. But Joe Pfeiffer and Larry State with the Cardinals run the alumni organization, and it is second to none. I've never gone to um, another fantasy camp with another organization, but just the stories that they're telling us and the experiences that other campers have with us that go to other major league camps around the country, this is top notch with the
Yeah.
Cardinals, and I've got to do it 7 or 8 times. I get to put the uniform back on
Yeah.
and have the camaraderie with former players that I played with and just former Cardinals that are that are Hall of Fame to people who played maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's really kind of fun, and I will always ask as long as I can healthily play.
Yeah.
and not get too hurt. But it's really great. It's the last one was in Orlando at the ESPN zone, if you will, right near Disney
Mhm.
World. The West Palm Beach spring training facility, or in Jupiter, I should say, um, is under renovation. And that's where they usually have it in January. They have several that they do throughout the year. They do one in Cooperstown, New York, with multiple organizations, not just the Cardinals. Um, they do one in St. Louis every summer. I've done that one a couple times. So we play in O'Fallon at a minor league park, and then you get to play like the last day, um, at Busch Stadium, and that's just
Yeah.
fun. We try to give the whole point of this is to give campers who are 35 and up, who played college baseball or who played little league, who want to come and be part of a major league experience. And that's what we
Yeah.
try to give them, is a major league experience, to be in the clubhouse, and we're, eating meals together, and we're doing drills together and taking
Right.
ground balls, and just to and from the field on the bus and at the hotel, and just try to give them the best experience possible for them.
Yeah. How old are you now, Bo?
I'm 48.
48. So what's it? I mean, I imagine you're out there taking ground balls and swinging. Like, what's that? How's that feel on the old body?
In the moment, it feels pretty good, but at the end of the day, it does not. And so you get pretty sore because
Yeah.
you just don't put that toll on your body doing anything normally in
Yeah.
life, even working out. I mean, I'm sure cross training and CrossFit and all that stuff, it would be maybe the equivalent, but being at the baseball field for 10 hours, it's hard to duplicate. And so your feet and your back and your
Yeah.
hamstrings and your shoulder and your elbow and wrist and all that stuff, it just, after a day or so, you're like, man, this is tough. That's why I was showing pictures and videos from being in the training room. That's where I spent half the time, just trying to get right.
Right. Yeah. So there is a question much later on in here, but I kind of want to know now since we're here. But can you still park one?
Yeah, I've hit one at fantasy camp.
Nice.
Doesn't happen too often. My bat speed is slowing down because I am getting older and because I don't hit very
Yeah.
often.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I have hit one.
Good boy.
I have hit one while I'm doing the fantasy cap. Thank goodness I hit one at least. because because Rick Ankiel, who
I saw you
um,
parked one, big one, like a
he
big one.
hit I mean, he hit probably five already there.
Yeah.
He's a lot younger than me, and he's just a freak athlete, and his bat speed
Yeah.
is just is
Still unreal.
uh is still there, and he just crushes. And again, people who are throwing to us are throwing between 45 and 60 miles an hour, so it is
Mm.
batting practice. So you have to generate more power as a player, because the velocity of the
Yeah.
pitcher helps with how far and fast the ball will go. But it's pretty it's pretty tough for me to hit
I
homers
bet.
these days.
That's still impressive that you can do that. And for anyone, if Rick Ankiel by chance listens to this, I want to have you on as a guest, man. I think I would love to tell your story. I read your book. I deeply know it. Having a hard time getting a hold of this guy, but hey, if someone can put me in touch with Rick Ankiel, reach out. All right. If With no further ado, let's get to some of these questions then, buddy. Ready? All
Yeah.
right, we got about an hour here. We've already kind of critiqued your own swing here. Well, what itch are you scratching by giving hitting lessons?
Hmm. You know, ultimately, it's to make the league that my kids play in better. I'll be honest. That's where it started. We
Mm-hmm.
touched on it in our original first podcast series of where it came from. I was
Yeah.
I was coaching on Cruz's team. I think we were 8 years old, or he was 8, and just I was helping one kid, and he was able to apply what I was helping him, even just a few words before he hit this one at bat, and he did awesome. And then his dad was asking me, "Hey, do you give lessons?" I was like, "Well, not really," but and then it just kind of
I
organically
could.
started that way.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was at my cage last night. Same kid, same dad. I mean, he comes
Yeah.
every week, and it's just, I mean, he's got a great swing, and I got a text from him over the weekend while they were playing their games. He, I mean, hit a ball in the opposite field gap for a 2-run double to tie the game. Like those are
Yeah.
the text messages that make this all worthwhile. Is when I get those from parents and videos. There's all these videos that I get now. Everybody's got a camera in their pocket, so when their kid gets a hit, I get a video most of the time, and it is very rewarding.
Yeah.
I'm running across kids now that we play against, and I'm giving them lessons while they're playing against my kid, during the season. I don't care. It's
Yeah.
it's all about developing good habits in a positive environment and just playing baseball. And I feel that I'm doing a pretty good job of that because I'm getting more and more people
Yeah.
every season to come to 31 hitting. It's turned out to be something really great.
I love that. I love that you're still a part of the game and still imparting, some of that knowledge that you have. Let's go ahead and name your top five favorite swings of all time. They're not necessarily the best players, but just your favorite swings that you're like, man, I like that swing.
Well, I like that swing. Well, Albert Pujols, I watched him up close for a very long time, and you can tell when you watch videos of him, he was so level, his swing. Yes, there were some, you know, angles of him hitting the ball up into the air. Like we all do that as hitters. That's just biomechanics, right? But
Hmm.
most of the time, and again, the videos that we see on Instagram or whatever, most of them are home runs because he hit 702, right? But
Hmm.
the base hit to right field is not something that people watch all the time, right? The
Not
line
not
drive
not not as
right
sexy.
back, it's not sexy. You're right. And
Yeah.
so I got to see so much of that, and just the extension that he gets or that he was getting when he played. Like it was just something to try to emulate. And I'm not saying I try to emulate him, but that vision and mechanics is one swing that I can't get out of my head. And I
Yeah.
want to teach a level a level swing because the
Yeah.
angle will be there when you hit the ball, and it's backspin, not angle of hitting the ball. It's
Yeah.
backspin to drive the ball, and he was a perfect example of that. Um, I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. is just pretty to watch him hit. I played against him a
Yeah.
little bit,
Yep.
but the videos of him when in his prime, he had a little bit
Man.
of an uppercut, right?
Yeah.
But
Sure.
again, you don't see the 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 opposite field singles and doubles and things, and that's what we got to key off of in terms of developing a hitting approach, and to something to emulate. It's not the hitting the home runs, watching an adult hit home runs at the big league level. It's no, we gotta work on hitting singles
Yeah.
because that's gonna evolve into doubles and home runs and things. I think Tony Gwynn had a not unorthodox, but he was very simple. Um,
Hmm.
he was not trying to do too much at all. He was taking what he got, and he would just pepper the ball around the field. Um, he had such great hands and body control, and he was obviously fun to watch, and someone to emulate a little bit. I think modern players or players who are playing now, Alex Bregman. Um, I really like the way he keeps it. He is so short to the ball.
Fact.
He is just compact, and he's like right here, and he just goes, and he's very level. Maybe it's
Yeah.
again the angle happens on its own, but he is just down straight to the ball. Um, and again, there's a handful of others that try to have that same philosophy of of not lifting the ball but driving through the ball. And I mean,
Mhm.
there's more examples, but those are some handfuls.
That's a great answer. I still think it's incredible that you had this, front row seat of watching, arguably the top three hitter of all time, and Albert Pujols. Like literally watched him day in and day out. You were his teammate. I still that's crazy. And then another interesting thing that you said there was these. I think it is an interesting thing in hitting these days of, Major League Baseball has become really kind of a three outcome thing for hitters, right? Strikeout, walk, home run, or you're trying to hit doubles or home runs. So, and these little league guys want to emulate these big league swings and whatnot, but they don't have the strength necessarily to knock it out of the park. And it is this kind of pull. How do you tell a little league kid don't do what the big league guy is doing because you don't have a big league body yet, or that's big league
Every once
strength?
in a
I
while,
don't know.
every once in a while, I do have to say we can't try to be like them
Mhm.
in the sense of our of I don't know. I want kids to emulate. I want them to practice and pretending to be somebody that that they look up to. I
Just the
do
right
want
guys.
that, right? Because that's what I did. I was, I would pretend to be that player when I hit. I
Yep,
would stand like
absolutely.
them. I'd try to swing like them.
We all did
That's
that.
how
Yep,
we get reps, right? And now
yep.
there's so much. It's not like we had slow motion video back then in Instagram where I could just look at it whenever I wanted. It was like, okay, I'm watching the highlights of Sports Center. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that looks really good, and then I'd go do that. Right now, it's like super slow motion, and there's all these analytics and videos and things, and
Hmm.
people talking. Like the kids these days have such an advantage of something to follow and something to practice, but
Yeah,
it's got to be the right person that you're practicing because
well
there
said.
are so many players that are trying to do too much as a player, even though they have some success um, at the major league level. They're getting paid millions of dollars. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah,
But as a kid, as someone who's developing, we have to be fundamental, and there are fundamental swings out there to follow. You just got to find them.
I love that. On a funny note, what do you think is the most mimicked swing? Like if people are playing wiffle ball in their backyard and whatnot, what would you think? I've got an answer in my head already.
You do?
Yeah,
Man, I don't. I do not know. I do not
I
know.
it would
From a
have to be from a
right-handed
certain
hitter or a
from a
left-handed hitter?
certain righty.
Man, I don't know. I don't know
Who
who it would
who
be. You
who
tell
has
me.
not done the Sheffield bat waggle when you just pick up a bat
Ah,
just for fun, right? Just to whip that thing around, and everyone's tried the Griffey as well. Those are
that's
my
very true.
thoughts, I guess.
I would agree with
All right,
you. I've done that. I've done it myself.
right? Okay then. Top three greatest hitters of all time that you would rank, and you can classify that however you want. Like I've got my own parameters when I think of the power, average, all these things. But what are your thoughts?
Man, I wish I was more of a historian. Um, I mean, Albert's got to be there too, right? He's got to be
Yeah,
in the top three of all time. Like,
sure.
uh, hitters, greatest hitters. I mean, we're talking about them already. Tony Gwynn and Griffey, like those are like
Sure.
maybe Griffey wasn't the best. I want to say not the best, but in the top three of hitting, right? But I mean, Wade Boggs comes to mind, just the control that he had. Um, Tony Gwynn, of course, just he's one of the best. Um, and I can't go back much further than that, really, to be
What about
honest.
Barry? What are your thoughts on Barry?
Barry, he is very the stuff that I've been seeing on Instagram with him, he's so arrogant about his craft, right? That he
Yeah,
figured out hitting
yeah.
and it's there's something to be said about how confident in himself he is
Mhm.
because he took something. I saw one recently where he took something from this guy, took something from that guy, and he tried to do this and he tried to do that, and then he put it into him, right? He was trying to emulate to some level some of the players that he thought were some of the greatest hitters. A little bit of Willie Mays, a little bit of Tony Gwynn.
Mhm.
I think that a little bit of Hank Aaron. Those are three that I remember he mentioned in that
Yeah,
interview. And but he figured out how to get the barrel to the ball no matter where it was.
yeah.
And I think most of the home runs he pulled, right, into center, but um, regardless of what he did to hit the ball further, yes, he is one of the best hitters ever, and um, very fun to watch and someone to listen to, someone to listen to, because he tries to make it very simple.
One interesting part of that is I think he had a 1 or 2 year stint as the hitting coach for the Marlins, and from everything I've read, it was a complete disaster. Like he had a really hard time connecting with players, and he was just so great that he had a hard time like imparting some of that knowledge, which is a hard time. Sometimes the best hitting coaches are guys that weren't the best hitters. They had to really deep dive and think about it. And there's guys like Barry that of course he worked hard, but come on, he was given some God-given talent that nobody else had either.
Yeah, and I think Lou Gehrig fell into that category too of not
Mm,
being a great or Ted Williams, I think, not Lou Gehrig.
okay.
Ted Williams
Hmm.
is the best hitter of his era, And
Absolutely.
I think he had a hard time conveying how to get that to
Read
other
that as
players.
well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get your point across because you got to do it 17 different ways to
Right.
reach 17 different people sometimes. And so
Yeah.
that's what's challenging as a hitting coach is to
Yeah.
say it one way that connect that clicks with three players over here, but doesn't click with these nine over here. And you got to say it and you got to explain it different way. You got to do a visual or you got to just close your eyes or whatever it is or demonstrate. There's all different ways to be able to reach an entire team,
Mhm.
um, because you can't just say it one way and expect them to do it
I
or to
love that.
understand.
Well said. Um, have your thoughts on the swing changed as you progress through from college to pro ball to now? Like, would you are they still pretty similar to how you saw things, or
What do you
have
mean
they
swing change?
progressed?
Mine
Um, just like
or
on just like how you would teach it, how you would think about it.
I think the terms, maybe some of the terms, but again, I really do feel like there's a fundamental way to do it. You just do it your way, right? There are things that we have to focus on. There are things that have to be um, talked through so
Hmm.
that you feel and you understand what it is to hit the ball consistently square, right? And there's several different ways to stand, right? There's several different ways to to have your balance or whatever, but it's all like at the launch position, right? After we stride and we kind of put our foot down and at
Yeah,
contact, most players are all in the exact same position.
absolutely.
There's some nuance there, um, but there's an efficient way to get to the ball consistently. And again, hitting is really hard. And if you are not level through the zone, then you're not going to hit the ball as often hard. And that's the whole point of hitting.
Well said. Um, are there some mistakes that you look back and think that you made during your career with your swing?
Yeah. I would say not necessarily with my swing. Um, I would say necessarily with my approach,
Your
right? We
approach, yeah,
talked about that a little bit. The
yeah,
approach, and and just putting in the work and the prep because the games are reactions. You're not really working on things during the game.
right,
You're
yeah,
working on things before the game and after the game and trying to have that muscle memory so that because you have 4/10 of a second to recognize the pitch and to put a swing on it
right,
effectively. Um, so it's the approach of taking what the game is giving you and not trying to create things and make things happen and predetermine what you're going to do. You have to simply react to what the pitcher's coming and most often than not at an elite level, double A, triple A, I think is elite hitting,
yeah.
um, is you have to be able to have practice that and react without the ability to think through it.
Mm, love that. This is a good one. You obviously had multiple stops in your minor league career. Were and different hitting coaches at each level. Were the hitting coaches at liberty to do what they wanted to do, or was it organizationally structured for them? You know, like there was the philosophy from the parent club that had to be taught.
Yeah, I don't think I never saw like a documented list of, hey, this is what the philosophy is, right? But they
Okay.
all have coaches meetings. They all have to, from rookie ball to triple A, there is a organizational philosophy, as you said, but and I think that they all agree or there is something to follow.
Hmm.
But I think every hitting coach is trying to get the best out of each player in their way.
Yeah.
And you have to observe that. You have to let them be themselves, and then go, okay, well, let's think about this, or let's think about this, just to create a conversation around feel and around your approach.
Yeah.
Everybody can hit the ball hard in A ball, double A. Like when you get there, everybody's hitting it hard, but it's I think that the fundamentals have to be there, and you have to feel the game. You have to. I don't want to say I keep repeating myself, but there's nuance to being an athlete, right? And
Sure.
controlling your body and timing and all of that stuff. But again, most hitters are in the same exact position at contact, um,
Yeah.
at the big league level, especially.
Love that. Next one. Who is your favorite hitting coach in your career, and why?
Um, I think that, I mean, Steve Balboni, we talked about that, the impact that he had on
Mm,
me when I was in Double A, and the drills that we talked about and the conversations we had,
yep.
and um, just trying to learn how to be a professional hitter.
Yeah.
It's again, you have to, with a wood bat, and me being, 5'10" and not having a lot of power, I have to have good technique. I have to have consistent technique, and I'm
Yeah.
learning from Steve Balboni, who is a power hitter, and
Right.
he was like, "Hold on, let's not try to hit homers. Let's try to get the barrel to the ball wherever the ball is. Let's get the barrel to it, and that has to do with your hands for
Mhm.
each pitch, away or in, and then where do we contact the ball?" And I think that those conversations really, really helped me. And again, every team has
Mm,
a hitting coach. Tommy Gregg was my hitting coach in AAA for a while. Um, and it's just the conversations. It's yes, it's there's work, right? But most of the I don't say most of the hitting coaches, but most of the players are in a good place,
mhm.
right? Most everyday players are in a good place and they're just getting their work in. And the hitting coach's job is to go, okay, not that you're 0 for your last 15 and that let's freak out. It's like, hold on, let's watch some video of you when you were, 5 for your last 15. Let's take a
Yeah.
look at what you were doing. What are you thinking here? Like, and then comparing that to an 0 for 15 streak where you're like, okay, oh yeah, look, I'm swinging at more breaking balls, or I'm not letting the ball travel, or I'm trying to pull the ball, or I didn't see it well. All those factors come into just an ongoing long-term discussion over a season of
Right.
where does my barrel need to be in relation to the ball and how am I going to get there?
I love that, man. There's some great answers, my friend. This is the interesting one. There's so much information available on on the swing today, right? Way more than when your career was. Can you hear me? Oh,
I'm
oh,
kidding.
he
Don't
was
listen.
closing his ears because there's
Don't
too much.
listen
Yeah,
to. Don't listen to it. Go ahead.
man. Yeah. So let me just say what I'm going to say. There's so much information out there. There's so many hitting coaches out there. There's so many different philosophies. What do you pay attention to? Is there anyone that you think is worth listening to? Yeah.
There's a few. There's a few. I'm not gonna mention. I don't really pay attention to who is saying what,
Okay.
or who is actually saying these things. Um, I, there's a lot of noise, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of people out there trying to make their mark in the game
Yeah.
and to get followers and to get clients, right?
Sure.
There are some good things out there, but most of the things that I see that I would agree with are the former major league hitters that are talking about hitting.
Yeah.
It's not some guru who is in their backyard or at some park or in their own, 10,000 square foot facility with turf and cameras and pocket radars and velocity, all these little things. They're
Yeah.
just they're selling they're trying to sell something. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm trying to
Right.
help little kids. And I think that
That's
I
pure.
think yeah, it's there's not a lot of new school stuff out there that I agree with because people are trying to have some kind of gimmick, whether it's a
Yeah.
tool, right, or it's a I don't want to say a drill because I've started to appreciate some specific drills, um, but it's all about talking through it and the feel and the result.
Yeah.
And I had a kid in my who was 10, Cruz's arch nemesis on the basketball court, right?
Yeah.
We've played against them the last couple of years. We beat them the last couple of years. We're playing against him and his dad and another dad and his kid, and we end up winning a couple championships over the last second and third grade, and now we're in fourth grade against these same two kids and same dads in the championship game,
Yeah.
and we're they've beat us twice this year, and I'm like, okay, right, it's starting to even out a little bit,
Uh-huh.
and we're now that we've lost a couple times, I think the dads are like, and these guys are so nice, like they beat us and they're so nice, and we beat them and they're so nice because Chad and I are the dads on our team, and um, like we become some acquaintances and buddies and a little bit, and
Yeah.
so I saw him out at a restaurant over the weekend, and he's like, I want to bring Preston to come get some hitting lessons. I said, oh, that's awesome. So he was able to
Cool.
come to the house yesterday for the first time, and he's a good athlete, and and he likes baseball, and it's the little things that you can do in a 25-minute session and watching the transformation of just somebody listening to what you're saying and feedback on every single swing
Yeah.
from the first five swings to the last five were night and day.
Wow.
And that's in 120 swings or yeah, however many baseballs I have. I think I have 60 baseballs in a bucket. It's like quality work and reps
Yeah.
and feedback. When you're in a controlled environment, you can make a huge impact as long as the kid is processing what you're saying and has the athletic ability to apply it.
Oh,
And that's a struggle sometimes because I get kids who are like, don't know how to hold a bat. I'm like, okay, where do you put your feet?
yeah.
Where do you put your hands? You
Mm.
have to start there, right? It's the fundamentals. But with an athlete, the ability to talk through and to have body control and hand control and to think about and feel, and then you see the result, it's like, it's it's really fun. It's really fun.
I love that. Are there any tools that you do like that you think are worthwhile?
Man,
There's
old
millions
school,
of them out there.
old school. A
What you got?
deflated basketball off a tee. I will do that with a kid who has a hard time not rolling over at contact and staying and has a hard time feeling the extension. I
Interesting.
have I have many deflated basketballs that are the shape of a basketball, but they just don't have a lot of air in them. I'll
Yeah.
put that on the tee, and you can see they get the feedback more from a basketball than from a baseball. And so when they get to the ball and they roll over, it's like boom, there's more resistance and there's
Yeah.
more, it's exaggerated what they're doing wrong. So once they start to figure out and they start to hit that basketball like a baseball in the cage,
Oh,
that is a huge thing. I did that when I was in high school and college, but they were the big basketballs and they were
yeah.
deflated because you get that resistance and you get the feedback immediately. If you're under it, you feel it more as a
I
hitter.
love that.
So I'll do those. I got little mini basketballs I'll do with the younger kids and do that quite often with kids who are struggling with getting some power too, because it's
Yeah.
like hitting, you need more resistance to feel.
I love that. Yeah.
So that's one. I do a high T drill. That is Steve Balboni, man. The high T engages the top hand, and if
Mhm.
you do it correctly, you will change yourself as a hitter. It's a high T, and it's amazing. And there are some videos out there that validate me doing that from 2002.
Mhm.
I'm seeing videos now of I think it's A-Rod who's talking about he's talking to Mike Trout and Harold Reynolds talking to Nelson Cruz and to a handful of all these players and Bonds and
Mhm.
about top hand and trying to hit down on the ball and staying on top versus trying to get underneath it and lift it. Go
Mhm.
find those, or I'll send you one. I have them
I've seen
saved
them.
on my.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So that high T drill when you're trying to hit the ball down in front of you is something huge that you can do with an 8 or 9 or 10 year old as long
Mhm.
as you force them to do it correctly.
Uh-huh.
They can get a lot out of that. Those are a couple drills.
I like that. That yeah, that basketball drill is interesting, and that could force extension too, being strong through it as well. Like you said, if they're rolling over, cutting across it, it's going to be instant feedback. Like yeah, interesting. Okay, I like that
Yep.
a lot. Um, well, that kind of I think you kind of answered my next question was it was going to be, are there any new school things that you do agree with? What do you think is trash? I think you kind of answered it there for the most
There's
part, unless you have more.
one new school thing that I it has to do with the top hand because the top hand is so important in a level swing and staying extended is it's the same type of thing like the high T drill is, but it's a split grip where
Oh, yeah.
you're doing this, and it worked for Cruz. That helps him stay on top versus tilting a little bit. You know, he has a tendency to tilt and kind of slice the ball to right field instead of hammer the ball to right field.
Okay.
But I see him when we're in the cage together, he'll go and then he'll put his hand back and just to remind
Get
himself of
that
the
feel.
top hand. So
Oh, interesting.
that split grip I've been doing with some kids who can't do the high T drill because the
Mm,
split grip's just a little bit easier to perform correctly.
I like that.
Um, and I mean that's really I don't do a lot of other drills.
I like that. Are you aware of Jeff Fry's presence on Instagram and hitting and stuff? You have any
Yes,
thoughts?
I occasionally like his things because I think he is like-minded like me. He wants kids to learn from the right people,
Hmm.
and I think some of the crazy stuff that he posts that is out there, and people think that it's like you know that they're doing good for kids,
Right.
but I think they just lack the experience. That's his point. Is like stop trying to listen to these people couldn't who didn't play beyond college or beyond high school. There are some coaches out there who are really good coaches that never performed at that level, and they know the mechanics of hitting. But the people you got to listen to are the ones that had success because they can explain it and they can tell you what they were feeling and what they were thinking and they can teach it.
Mhm.
And even though Mike Trout's not a hitting coach, watch Mike Trout. A-Rod is not a hitting coach per se, but he had good technique. And Nelson Cruz is another guy. I played against him for years. Really nice guy. He hit so many homers. I played when he was early in his career in AAA a lot of years, and um, he's like, you gotta control it. You gotta use your top hand, and those are the people we gotta listen to as kids and as parents, not the ones who are trying to sell you something.
For those of you that don't know, Jeff Fry is a former big leaguer that has kind of like made it his mission on Instagram to kind of attack, I guess, a lot of these hitting
No,
coaches. And
I think it's
or how would you
to
put it?
it's awareness, right? And
Okay.
I think it's he's just highlighting the things that should be emulated, right? And practiced versus the things that really
Yes.
are not effective and are going to hurt you as a hitter. He's all about the development and proper practice and trying to help. I think he's doing some good here by pointing out and making everybody aware that don't believe everything that you see.
That's
You
fair.
gotta trust the source, you know?
That's fair. He is I think his handle is Certified Hitting Guru, which is he's making fun of all these guys out there that are essentially these hitting gurus that are trying to reinvent everything. Okay.
Right.
Moving on. Do you use any technology with your stuff?
I do not. I mean, I'll occasionally video with my phone a kid and then show them immediately, but I don't, and I do want to get some technology. I think it's more of just the competition with yourself. It's more of, okay, that ball was 52 miles off the bat. Let's
Yeah.
try to get to 55 by next month or something like that. I think it's something to measure and something to use. I want to get there is a product out there that I think it's one of those little handheld radar things, I think,
Yeah.
and I think that would be fun to get just for pure entertainment value and
Yeah.
to drive a 10-year-old kid to try to hit the ball a little bit harder than he did last time because
Right.
if I had a slogan, it's swing hard because kids don't swing hard enough.
Now, when you were in the big leagues, were you using some video stuff, looking at your swing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It was more in the minor leagues, when you're really kind of processing and developing and having more conversations. And again, my experience at the big leagues, people were leaving me alone. They were not trying to help me with anything for
Yeah.
the most part of my time there because I was doing so well.
Oh, you don't
And
mess with that.
it was more conversational as things started to slow. Um, but you know, I wish I had more technology. I don't have a video system. I don't think it's really needed for 10-year-old kids right now either.
Yeah.
But if I see some good things, I'll record it and I'll show it to them right away just so they can take a look at it.
Mm. Okay. Tell me about how you use the tee as a player, if you did use one, and then how do you use a tee if you like them
Man,
for your clients now?
see, for me as a player, there's so much value in just being able to work on something very specific because you're only as good
Mhm.
as your batting practice thrower, right?
Yeah,
And
sure.
so I think to progress as you are working toward or working through something, right? Working through your timing or working through, extending early or rolling over or getting under the ball, the tee is so great because it's controlled and you can put it where you want and you can just leave it there and you can just hammer and repeat and repeat and repeat quality reps.
Hmm.
And I hit off the tee with every kid every single time. At
Do,
least one of the two buckets that we hit, right? One bucket is always off the tee. And
will you
it's
always just stick to a spot, or will you move it around as
no,
you?
no, I move it around, but I would say 80% is the fastball that's on the plate, but away that you
Yeah.
have to hit back up the middle or to
Hmm.
right center is where we do most of the work, because that's the hardest ball to hit.
Okay.
That's where we spend most of our time. That is where the swing path needs to be created
Yeah.
because that will translate into pulling the ball better and more
Yeah.
effectively if you can stay back behind the ball and drive the ball in the middle.
Interesting. Um, Thoughts on front toss? It's kind of lost some love here in the last couple of years.
I love
What do you
front
got?
toss. It's
Yeah.
because I can throw it exactly where I want it. And again, the last thing you want to do is try to pitch to a kid when you're trying to work through something, is to
Yeah.
pitch to them and throw balls all the time.
Right.
Like that's the most frustrating thing as a hitter is to not get strikes. So I do underhand front toss or I'll take a knee and I'll just pepper this because front toss. Some people say the angle is screwing up players. It's not. I mean, we did front toss in the minor leagues. We did front toss at the big league level. It's to get some quicker work, right, with
Yeah.
more strikes.
Yep.
The angle in which I mean, it's not going to change. It's that it is not a hindrance of the ball coming at them like this when they're playing. It's all about the
Yeah.
swing. The swing is the same.
Oh, I love that. What do you think are some of the best ways to develop bat speed?
Well, bat speed. Okay. We all know that I tell kids when I want them to swing harder, I tell them to not use their upper body. I just say, turn your hips faster,
Oh, I
right?
love that. Yeah.
And so then that translates to more, right? More power, right? Off the bat. Um, it's hard to get the kids to engage and understand that you don't load your body like a pitcher to hit the ball harder
Hmm.
because a lot of kids turn their upper body and trying to wind up and then lunge at the ball because they feel like that's how they got to hit it. They got to, you know, they got to load up their weight and everything. And you do, but you just have to load it up straight back. And then hips and hands are what create the bat speed. I don't, I think verbalizing it is the best way. Just go swing harder, use your hips,
Yeah.
whip your hands through those types of things. Um, I don't have I don't have like a big rubber band that I hold back and do all these like crazy things. You've seen other Instagrams where the guy's like
I know
messing
you're talking
around
about.
and
Yep.
it's really funny, right? There's some humor out there, but it's talking and it's asking the kid to feel like, do you feel the difference? Right? Do you
Yeah.
see the difference? It's not about what I could tie to them and make them have the resistance there. It's about feel and
Yeah.
talking it through, and that just takes time.
Mm, love that. I don't know if you have thoughts on this or not, but I remember when there was an article that came out in Sports Illustrated many years ago, and it talked about it was when all the new swing stuff was coming out. It was really big on Josh Donaldson and like launch angle and all these things, and it talked about the barrel working backwards. And I remember that kind of broke my brain when I first saw it. I was just like, it went against kind of everything that I thought I knew, and the barrel blurs backwards to kind of start the swing. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think players, I mean, look at here's an example, Kevin Millar. Okay. If you think of watching Kevin Millar hit, he played for the Red Sox. And where did he play? He played in Boston, and he had to
Hmm.
hit the ball high over the Green Monster for half his game. He would literally swing up.
Yeah.
He would swing up. And there are some players who can get away with that. There are some players that Griffey is one of them. He's like, he's swinging up, and he had such hand-eye coordination and such talent. And Josh Donaldson is like strong, and you
Yes.
can his legs are so strong, but I promise you, he is trying to stay down through the ball, and then his extension and finish makes it look like he's lifting the ball
Right.
because it's consistently hitting the ball hard and launching it. Edmonds is one of those. He would hit. He had so much angle too.
Yeah.
He would hit topspin homers, which
Yeah.
nobody could do.
Right. Yeah. It's strong.
But he would hit backspin homers, and they would be so high that you're just like it just keeps going and going. And you think about the I don't want to say launch angle, but if you think of where the ball or how the ball is leaving the plate, it's like Edmonds would hit him like this, and Pools would hit him like this, and they would go the Pools would hit it further than Edmonds.
Yeah.
And again, this is from my recollection, my foggy memory of just being on the field with them and watching them hit. But it's I don't know. I just I feel like articles like that do try to put some context around what we're seeing as
Mhm.
fans, but only the players really know what they're trying to do and what they're having
Yeah.
success with. And
Right.
that's hard to articulate sometimes.
I love that. Do you have any thoughts on a leg kick? Yay, nay? Would you coach it out of someone? Would you coach it into someone?
No, I think it is an athletic nuance for timing, and I
Yeah.
think that it's practiced. I think it's whether it's a toe tap that Sosa did or Chipper Jones did.
Yeah.
It's all about timing and keeping your weight back. That's what that front leg is for. And if
Yep.
you can't control that and you can't consistently get your foot down in time, then you're going to be late or it's too early and now you have more problems. I think it's all timing and athletic nuance.
Okay. We talked pretty extensively, or you have, about the top hand already. Tell me a little bit about the bottom hand. Do you have any thoughts on that in terms of like how firm you should be holding it, anything like that?
The top hand is only on the bat because we have two hands. That's what I like to say to
Ooh.
these kids that it's only there because we have to use both hands. I don't feel like it only starts the swing. It
Yeah.
only starts with knob to the ball, right? You've seen those videos of Tony going out there where he's like knob to the ball, right? Wherever it is, that's what starts the swing, and then the top hand takes over. So I think it's there because we have two and we have to be able to hold the bat. But the bottom hand really does nothing other than hold on at the end when we follow through. I like to de-emphasize the use of the top hand or the bottom hand because the top hand is what controls everything.
Mm. Okay. Big top hand guy. I like that. Tell me about the firmness or lack thereof and loose with the hands. Like what do you how are you talking to some of your hitters?
Don't talk about grip, but I think sometimes you can hold on too tight.
Yeah.
But it's a nuance, and it's just your knuckles just have to be. You can't be too far around this way because then your
Yeah.
wrists don't work properly. So
Sure.
it's just a matter of holding it and holding it in your fingers, right? Holding it in your fingers versus in this way
Yeah.
because you got to be able to control it and let your wrists work. So I don't think grip. I mean, you're holding on to the bat. I think there's a fine line between too hard and too soft.
Sure. Thoughts on finish, one hand, two hand, high, hold, what you
you,
got?
I think I've finished more with one hand, but most of the home runs that I hit were finished with two hands all the way. Like, I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
Um, I try to help kids who have a hard time extending through the ball to help them do that and to feel that. I ask them to, after contact and extension, take their hand off. So, there's a lot of kids will finish like this
Yeah.
instead of like this to complete that swing. And I feel that it's going to happen in the game how it's going to happen. But in
Yeah.
practice, it can be a tool to help with extension and just the feel of staying longer through the ball.
Mhm.
But again, whenever the game is going to happen, it's going to happen.
Mhm. That
So
makes sense
whatever
to me.
happens. Hmm.
What about choking up? You have any thoughts on that?
It's uncomfortable for me. I never did it.
Yeah.
I liked hitting against the little knob at the end of the bat. Some
Yeah.
people don't care. I mean, yeah,
Me
Barry
too.
Bonds is the number one person to say, hey, look, you can hit homers without with
Yeah.
you know,
Being at the bottom of the bat.
choking up. Yeah, it's preference. It's
Okay.
preference. But again, if you want to shorten your swing and put the ball in play, you don't necessarily have to choke up to do that. It's just changing your approach and getting the bat on the ball and being short to it. But I think there are some. I think it's a philosophical thing rather than evidential.
Yeah. So when we were looking at your swing, I saw a little bat tip, whereas your barrel kind of tipped a little bit. Was that something that you just innately did, or is that something that you tried to do?
I did not try to do that. I wish I
Yeah.
didn't so much because all the videos that I do watch, it's like a hitch, right? But again, it's a timing thing
Yeah.
because it's I teach kids to be here and to do this and in theory that's great. That's what we're all trying to do. But each kid has a little bit of something that they're trying to do that
Yeah.
is unique to them, and I don't want to take that away from kids. I
Sure.
want but I did it and I saw it so much when I was playing. It's just a timing thing. It's just like the toe tap. It's just um, I saw a video there not too long ago. Bonds kind of did that. I'm not comparing myself to Barry Bonds, but again, it's a nuance of like how am I going to get my timing down so that I can be on time to the ball. And
Yeah.
that was one little thing that just helped me do it.
It's actually a pretty high level move. I mean, there are tons of guys from Hank Aaron to Barry Bonds to, Josh Hamilton that all tipped a little bit. They gave it a little pump and it was just part of their timing. So you're
Hmm.
you're in good company there.
Thank you.
My next one is kind of thoughts on like direction and then timing. And it's more like, so I remember reading that like Griffey used to think, I want to be on time to hit the ball like a line drive over the second baseman. And some guys have, I've heard middle. I've heard some guys even talked about being pull a little bit. Do you have any thoughts on that being directionally, like thinking up the middle? Is that where you want to be on time for so you can adjust or?
I think we have to think middle because it's easier to adjust a
Yeah,
little bit each way.
yeah,
Right? So most of the hitting that I do with kids is there's only two positions that we hit on off the tee, is
okay,
slightly away and slightly in, so that they can learn to hit the ball up the middle and then learn to pull the ball when they need to.
yeah,
And those two differences right there, I think is until you're probably 12, 13, you don't really need to do like four positions on the plate, like over here, over here, over here as you work your way across, but you have to be able to feel the extension in the direction of where the ball needs to go. If it's
mhm,
slightly away, you have to extend toward center or toward the pitcher or toward second base in that general area. You have to finish the swing that way. And then when it's in, you have to turn and you have to finish and extend this way. It's the same swing. It's just getting the barrel to the ball and not rolling over too soon.
mm,
You got to stay through it and then roll. That's it's like this little it happens in a split second. But if you watch a super slow-mo video of any major league hitter that hits the ball, whether it's a single or a home run, it's here, 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 that little extension, and then there's the roll, which
yeah.
happens naturally. You just you have to be able to do it in the direction in which the ball needs to go.
Oh, I love that. We've got about 5 minutes left. Is that right? What you
Couple
got?
more. We got more than five, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking through my questions here and I'm trying to pick which ones I want to get answered
Ooh.
this time, but you have already agreed. I'm going to put it out there to come back again here. So, but okay. So, thoughts on picking a side of the plate at the higher levels. I did it a little. I mean, I haven't played indie ball, but I've read guys like Donaldson and these kind of guys would pick essentially like I'm going to pick the outer half and be aggressive on this. I'm looking for velocity outer half, and everything else I'm spitting on. Did you ever do anything like that? Do you have any thoughts on anything like that?
I think there are times where you think you're like, okay, location, right? And it's a tendency of the pitcher, not necessarily you as a hitter. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, this pitcher is going to throw, 90% of their fastballs are going to be on the inner half. So
Okay.
I'm going to look there until I get two strikes. I think that happens. I think people say they do that, but I could never effectively look in a location
Hmm.
and just wait for it.
Okay.
Like I'm trying to see a fastball,
Yeah.
or I'm trying to see something spinning that's going to be in the middle of the plate.
Uh-huh.
But I really looked in the middle and adjusted. Now I was guilty of being pull happy, I'll be honest, but as
Yeah.
I matured as a hitter, I got more fastballs away, and you have to trust to go the other way. And as I got older, I got better at doing that. And then in a response to that, then I would get more pitches that I was more comfortable to pull just because
Hmm.
they had to change. If I'm
Yeah.
hitting two balls in the gap, then they go, okay, I can't pitch over there. I got to come over here. And then
Yeah.
boom, try to hit over here. Wherever those weaknesses are, they're still looking for weaknesses, pitchers are. And we're just trying to hit the ball hard. So um, I feel that looking in the middle of the plate and reacting and adjusting just a little bit on either side
Yeah.
is the way to approach hitting until you get older.
Oh, I love that. Tell me how to create backspin. Backspin. If a guy came to you and said, "Hey, I'm having a hard time. I want to backspin some balls. I pound a lot of balls in the ground. What are your thoughts?"
It's because if somebody is pounding the balls on the ground, that means their timing is off, right? Of where they're contacting the ball in
Hmm.
relation to the plate, and that they're rolling in a too soon, right?
Okay.
That roll of the wrist happening at contact, because
Yeah.
what
Early.
happens to the barrel when you roll is it goes up over the ball, right?
Oh,
So
interesting. Yeah.
that's top spin, right? Those are ground balls every time, right? I'm trying to get in the camera. Those are the barrel comes over the ball and boom, you're getting top spin.
Yeah.
To create backspin, you have to stay as the bat comes into the ball, right? Everything's great here. If you roll too soon, boom, ground ball.
Yeah.
But if you're coming here and you contact and you extend through it, that's what creates the backspin.
Oh,
So that extension, and if you look at Albert and his videos, you can see that extension is so far out here. It's
yeah.
so far to create that backspin. That's why his baseballs would just drive. Now, when we're talking 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds, the more line drives, the better. I'm talking singles, right? I'm
Mhm.
talking two hoppers to the outfielders. We don't need to hit homers. We need to be consistently staying through the ball, right? Through the ball, boom, this way to create that backspin. Because most of the time, I don't have a bat in here, thought I did, but if we're using this as a bat, right? This contact right here in the center, and usually the angle is barrel slightly below your hands. That's just the natural way to see it, or to our bodies work, right? It's never really like this, right? The barrel is below the hands. And as
Mhm.
long as we are squaring the ball up, we extend through it with your wrists, that is what creates backspin.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Um, you mentioned Pujols there. I've got this question in here, so I might as well just ask it. That must have been incredible every day, you know, watching Albert, watching Jim Edmonds, watching Roland go through all their stuff, right? And I mean, was anything unique about how they approached hitting? Did anything stand out?
I would um I would have to go back into the cerebral cortex to remember anything that they actually said,
Yeah,
but but what I remember seeing is how consistent they were with their work.
yeah,
They knew what it took for them to get ready for a game. They knew what it took to adjust something that they were feeling in a series of at bats. They knew that this is what I have to do to get right, or to feel right, or to stay right. Right. That's
yeah,
all. Those are the three things you're doing really: is get right, you know, fix something, or to stay in a positive mindset, to stay right.
Yeah.
Um, I just remember they would just go about their work, and they knew Mike Matheny was really big on that too. He was like, "I'm done." We'd be halfway through batting practice, or in our time slot before a game. He's like, "I'm done. I'm good."
Swing
And
felt good.
I mean,
Yep.
that's you know yourself so well
Yeah.
that he was very methodical in his batting practice too. I was in his group a lot, and he would just boom, 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 boom. He would work his way around the field, right, from
Yeah.
opposite field to pull. Then he'd take a couple more swings, and when he felt right, he was done, and he'd miss his last two rounds. He didn't care. He knew that he was right. So stuff like that,
Yeah.
where it's like I feel good, I'm in a good place, but repeating their work consistently, knowing what it takes to stay consistent,
Mhm.
um, was everything that I was able to watch.
I love that. Were there any big league guys on opposing teams where you felt like I want to go peek and see what they're doing in BP? I want to see it, like Griffey or anything like that?
No,
No.
no, I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't remember wanting to go watch anybody.
Okay.
Um, and not, it's I don't think that was a conscious thought. I mean, during the game it's one thing, but I like to I'm trying to watch the game, and
Yeah.
maybe when I'm in the dugout, if I wasn't playing one day, I'd want to watch somebody hit, but the game's going too fast for those types of things.
Right. Thoughts on developing hand-eye, and I've gotten here written stickball, and like there's a game that they play in Latin America with like a bottle cap and a broomstick, and it's called Vitilia, I think, or something like that. And
Mhm.
yeah, do you have any thoughts on developing hand-eye?
Um, Thoughts? Not really. I think we have it or we don't. I
Yeah.
think that's um, the very beginning of analytics and coming into the game where it's like, well, if they practice their vision and drop something over here and we catch it, or we're hitting light bulbs that are blinking around on a board. I think it's just something to say that we did it. um, I think we all have hand-eye
Yeah.
coordination, and it's the practice comes in the consistent work of hitting off a pitcher
Yeah.
and gaining that knowledge and training our eyes to see things and is that are not really baseball specific. I think
Yeah.
is maybe the bottle cap thing is like, okay, where is it's that's like harder to do than hit a fastball, right?
Sure. Right.
So, but I think there are some good training tools. There's like little foam balls to hit or whatever,
Yeah.
just to make it harder, to make the real game seem easier.
Yeah.
But it's hard to mimic a game type situation regardless of what little tool you're using to get ready.
Love that. Do you have any thoughts on where, as a hitter, your eyes should be pre-pitch? Looking at something else. Go ahead. Roll.
I looked at the top of the hat. That's what I did because the ball is coming out. That's the closest thing to where the ball's coming out. So you don't really
Yeah.
have to adjust your depth, right?
Yeah.
Even though release is out here, this is where you get to see the ball for the first time. So I would not look at their face. I would look at the top of their hat, instead of looking, obviously, focusing on the hitter's eye or looking here, because then you got to move. I was trying to be right here. I think that's pretty common.
Do that. Um, Thoughts on where to ideally hit the ball, and let me lead you a little more here. There's a really cool video of Dante Bichette talking about, home runs are essentially caught a little bit out front, and that, but to be a really good hitter, you have to be able to work deep and like, maybe not in ideal advantages for you, like deep contact. Do you have any thoughts?
It's again, you're taking what the pitcher is giving you, and you can pull an outside pitch as long as you have control of the barrel in your hands. You can pull it for a home run. Obviously, you want to hit the ball the other way when it's away, but there are some really good hitters out there that stand close enough to the plate that can get the barrel out in front on an inside pitch, but then also pull an outside strike. Um, or at least with some consistency to continue to pull the ball. But again, you think of players that use the whole field. They're the complete hitters where they're just reacting to what's being thrown to them, and they
Yeah.
know that they've put the work in to pepper the ball to right field or to pull it down the line. It's just um, it's hard. You can't dictate where you're hitting it. you, you can try and you can look out front and you can practice that all you want, but sometimes you're going to be late and then you're sawed off, right? And then, or you're too early and now you're dribbling it to third. So I think it's again, I think I'm going to coin this phrase athletic nuance, where it's you're just an athlete and you are able to make it happen. You
Yeah.
can't teach it and it's hard to explain.
Oh, love that. In our previous episode, you mentioned that you were huge on being on plane, and we haven't really talked on that yet. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on being on plane, when to get on plane, and yeah, just you have anything?
Well,
We'll
I
roll.
think on plane is when that barrel starts to come around to the hitting zone, is that you're the on plane is the plane of the baseball coming to you, right?
Right. Hmm.
So and as at a fastball, it's coming just a little bit downward, a couple degrees, right? It's
Yeah.
not obviously curveballs are different, right? But the ball is not coming at you straight because the mound is above the plate, right?
Yeah.
So there's that little bit of arm angle comes down. So as long as we can stay on plane this way, and again, we talked about you have to, and the next thing we can talk about this is the feel versus real. The feel
Awesome.
is what you have to feel like you're going down to the ball because the top hand is controlling everything. You have to feel this, but in essence, what you're really doing is you're getting it on plane early as that barrel lags behind you.
Mhm.
You're getting that barrel early and you are coming up just a little bit, but you're staying through, you're on the same plane as the ball longer,
Mhm.
right? Because if you're uppercutting, even just a couple degrees, the timing of you of hitting a pitch that's coming this way and going up, the chances of that consistently is really slim.
Mhm.
This is you are if you're coming this way and the bat is playing, you could be late and boom, that ball goes over here. You could be right on time and you could be early. As long as you stay through it and stay on plane with your barrel, I think the more often you're going to hit line drives.
Oh, I love that. That's great. I at times during my career had issues with being pushy, and it was like I would incorrectly use getting on top of the ball. Like, so if I think get on top, what works for me is actually think about being on top behind it, like back here, versus if I think about being on top more in front of me, then I get pushy, and that was something that worked for me. So just my 2 cents there. How are we doing on time?
Couple minutes here.
Couple
Yeah.
minutes here. Okay, cool. How much mental work are you doing with your players at all? Like, in terms of cultivating confidence and believing in yourself and stuff like that.
Man, a lot of kids come in, they're really timid to the cage that I'm in,
Yeah,
and lack confidence
yeah.
and don't know how to get out of that, right?
How do
Because
you?
they've struggled. I don't want to say for so long, but they just struggled with hitting.
Yeah.
Um, I try to create that positive environment, and even though they may not be doing everything right, I find something that they do that they're doing right, and I just praise and praise and praise. There was at practice last night. This is really surreal. A taller kid on our team who lunges at the ball and is on his toe like a golfer, which is the last thing you want to do.
Hmm.
And he swung about 30% of his power, and there was just nothing. It's like swinging a dead salmon. It's just nothing. There is, there's no bat speed, there's
Yeah.
no power, there's no confidence. And so after about 10 or 15 swings of me, like like harping on the same type of thing, and what it was swing harder, swing harder, swing harder, swing harder. And then he started to hack, even though he was still going on his toe. It's like these small wins. I was like, "You're doing awesome. Look at you actually hitting line drives into the net, right?"
Yeah.
The next station is to go to the plate, and we're doing a sim game, so the pitchers are throwing to the hitters, right? They get in at bat. I look up, and he has hit the ball through the first base hole, first and second, and he is jumping up and down
That's
on his
cool.
way to first
That's cool.
because he finally hit the ball in play.
Yeah.
And that I wasn't even there. I just saw it. I'm like, and I think I yelled, way to go, something like that.
Yeah.
I bet he is going to have a different approach, a different feeling coming to our next practice because of that.
That's special.
And that is what I'm trying to do with all of my hitters. whether they come in thinking they know everything, because I have a couple of those too.
Yeah.
At 10, it's the full spectrum of having positive. Yes, there's constructive criticism, but the positive reinforcement of a few of the good things that they do make all the difference right here.
I love that. Um, you got time for two more questions? How about that?
Yeah.
Or one more? One more? Two more? What you got? So I've got one more. All right. So we've already talked about it, but I've got an S318 right here. This was your model. We kind of briefly touched on it in our when we initially did your podcast. I'd love to hear how you came to that bat model again. Did you try any others, and why did you love the S318? And also, the funny part is when I listened back to our old podcast, I ended up talking about the bat way more than you did. I was so excited that we had like the same bat model. I was like, S318, me too, we're S318 brothers. But I'd love to hear a little more of your thoughts, and then I'll let you get out of here.
I didn't discover the S318 for a while. I was an M110 guy because I was using Pro Stock.
Yep.
And it's all in the knob and the grit or the handle, right? And yes, how long the barrel is before it starts to get smaller. I would throw up if I used a C271. Throw up. I did not like
I didn't like it either. Yeah.
how skinny the barrel was, but then also like how long that transition was from like the label until the end of the bat.
Yeah.
But then the handle was so tapered. It was thin and then we get as big almost as the knob. Uh,
I agree.
I wanted to hit against the knob like we talked about,
Yeah.
right? And it was more of a consistent handle, so it wasn't too tapered. It
Yep.
was a little thicker on the bottom hand than it was on the top hand,
Yeah.
but it didn't get too thin. And then the barrel balance really was like it was a longer barrel, so it was more of a balanced bat. It wasn't top heavy, and I think it was just a very balanced bat. And I think I discovered that it felt, and I had this conscious feel one day. It felt like an aluminum bat in my hands.
Oh,
Like
there you go. That's powerful.
that's what gave me the feel like, oh yes, let's go,
Yeah.
because it felt like an aluminum bat from college.
I love that, man. I remember reading a long time ago that when Frank Thomas, when he would get into a funk, he would take BP with an aluminum bat just to like get that sweat, go hit a couple 500-foot jimmies, and he'd feel good about himself, and it'd be
That sounds
yeah.
awesome. I'd love to do that right now.
All right, brother. Well, this is about all the time we got for today. I'm gonna have to bring you back because I still got some more questions, and I just think it's fun talking baseball. So,
It
one
is.
thing, one fun thing I wanted to do with you before you left here is you are a Bay Area boy, born and raised, right?
I was born in Oregon, but lived
Oh,
in
sorry.
an hour
Yes.
hour
Yep.
south of San Francisco for
Right.
20 years. Yeah.
Anyway, we've talked a little bit about your love for some Bay Area rap and stuff like that. You are familiar with some Too Short, right?
Yes, I am familiar with.
I'm gonna give you a lyric here. It's clean, and you have to finish it before we go. Okay?
Okay.
You should get this. All right. You should be blank blank.
You should be.
You should be. Mm-mm.
What? Get in where you fit in?
You should be getting it. You should be getting it. It's a Too Short
Ah,
song, one of my favorites.
you should be get. That's right. But I think that album has "Get In Where You Fit In" is one of the songs. So
Yep.
now it's all coming back to me. That's good.
Furball right there. You were not expecting that, were you?
No, it's
All right,
okay. I'm
guys.
gonna, I'm
This
gonna
is
go listen to that now. Thank you.
this has been the post game spread
Getting it
again.
while
This
the
is
getting is good. That's what the lyric is. Getting it where the getting is good.
You're right. There we
It
go.
took me a second. There we go.
This has been Bo Hart again on the post game spread. We're just having a good time talking hitting. This is going to be Bo Knows Hitting, part 6 here. We're going to have him back. So appreciate your time, Bo. And post game spread, we're out of here. You got anything?
Go Zags!
Oh,
Championship.
he's wearing his
WCC
Zag shirt
tonight.
right now, representing. Absolutely.
Go Zags!
All right, brother.
Thanks, Blake.
See you, man.
Awesome.
All right.